Your sister is involved in a situation that requires your immediate attention. Archangel Michael says, this is not a coincidence. The message you are receiving right now was meant to reach you because time is running out. Something involving your sister is unfolding quietly, and it holds a weight that could change everything in your life. There are whispers moving through unseen places, carrying truths that others are trying desperately to hide. Your sister is entangled in something you never imagined, and the strings are being pulled by hands that do not wish you well. The shocking part is that this has been going on longer than you realize. The air feels heavy, as if an unseen warning is pressing against your spirit. You may have ignored the signs, brushed off the uneasy feelings, but now the truth cannot be silenced anymore. What your sister is caught up in requires you to open your eyes before it's too late. Her name has been spoken in places of shadow, where deals are made and secrets are exchanged. She has been drawn into a plan that was never meant for her, yet she cannot see the danger surrounding her. You are being called because only you can stop what's about to unfold. Type Amen if you believe in God. 333. The truth is difficult, but it must be faced. A decision she made out of desperation has placed her in the middle of something bigger than she understands. Those around her are not who they pretend to be, and their intentions are darker than she knows. Tears are connected to this path, and behind closed doors, words have been spoken that could break your heart. She thought she was protecting you, hiding the truth to keep you safe, but in doing so, she has stepped deeper into the trap. The weight of her silence is now pressing against both of your destinies. Her situation is more than an accident or a mistake. It is tied to forces that want to see you broken. That is why this message is reaching you now. Because if you do not move with urgency, the story will be written without your hand in it. You may feel chills as you hear this, and that is not by chance. It is the confirmation that your spirit already knows something is wrong. Do not dismiss this. Her struggle is also your warning. Type Amen if you believe in God. 444. They approached her with false kindness, masking their real intentions under a veil of opportunity. She believed what she was told, thinking it would bring relief, but what they offered came with a price. Every step she took closer bound her more tightly to their hidden plan. You have noticed her silence, the way her eyes shift, the heaviness in her tone. It is because she is carrying something she cannot speak, fearing that the truth will destroy everything. She is torn between loyalty and survival, but the chains are tightening around her spirit. Someone is watching her closely, making sure she doesn't reveal too much. That is why she has been distant, avoiding certain conversations, hesitating when she wants to cry out for help. She feels trapped between what she knows and what she cannot share. Archangel Michael says, there is no time to waste. Your sister's fate is being decided in rooms you cannot see, and your awareness is the only key to break this silence. That is why you were led to this message. It is your confirmation. Type Amen if you believe in God. 555. Her involvement is not random, it was orchestrated. Every detail was planned to ensure she would be where they wanted her to be. And now, she stands on the edge of something that could change the course of your family forever. Your sister has become the pawn in a dangerous game, and those pulling the strings are not finished yet. They believe she is too afraid to resist, too isolated to escape, but they do not understand the strength that comes when truth is revealed. and the truth is beginning to break through. In her silence, she prays for a way out. In her heart, she hopes you will see the signs and step in before it collapses around her. The tears she hides at night are not weakness, they are the evidence of the battle she is already fighting. But this battle is not hers alone. That is why this moment is so urgent. You are meant to be her shield, her guide, the one who sees through the lies when she cannot. Type Amen if you believe in God. 666. The message arrived in a way that felt deliberate, as if it had been guided by a hand that understands urgency. Your phone lit up with a number that held no name, only a short line that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. It said that a door would be open and a box would be waiting and your sister would be safer if you moved now. The street you walked was quiet yet crowded with a pressure that made the night feel narrower than it should. A car idled at the corner with headlights off, the engine a low reminder that eyes were nearby. The wind carried a scent of iron and rain, and it made your heart hammer against a resolve you did not know you. Still possessed. Inside the door was a black box with a latch that clicked like a lock confessing. The lid rose and a small key slipped forward as if eager to find its place in a hidden world that does not forgive hesitation. Under the key sat a folded paper with your last name written in a hand you recognized as your sister's. Her handwriting trembled across the message like a voice trying to be brave inside a storm. She wrote that she tried to fix something without involving you and that the cost was rising faster than she could count. She asked you to trust your instincts because the people smiling at you had already calculated the price of your silence. Type Amen if you believe in God. 777. There was a second paper beneath the first, heavier stock, official in tone, smelled faintly of toner and urgency. It described a transfer that should never have been started, a promise made under conditions that hide knives in velvet. The signature line bore your sister's name, but the flourish at the end bent wrong like a truth forced to bow. The box contained a small flash drive wrapped in plain tape, as if someone wanted it to look forgettable. You held it and a chill crept through your fingers and settled in your spine because it carried a weight that was not physical. It felt like a bridge between what you hope you know and what you fear is already true. A second key clinked against the first and together they made a sound like doors meeting for the first time. A number was stamped on a brass tag, nothing special to anyone but essential to you now. The tag carried the imprint of a storage unit that had been paid in cash for months under a name that only appears in shadows. You moved with resolve because stillness was no longer safe, and the night understood your pace and opened to your steps. The city watched from dark windows that held stories of other people keeping other secrets. You walked through it all with a purpose that drew a straight line between the box and your sister's silence. Type Amen if you believe in God. 888. The storage facility sat at the end of a road lined with quiet warehouses and humming streetlights. The number on the tag matched a door with fresh scratches as if someone had considered prying it open and then changed their mind. Your hand shook the way hands shake when the truth is not far away anymore. The key slid into the lock and the door lifted with a sympathetic groan. Inside, a clean scent of cardboard and metal greeted you like a hospital hallway without faces. 3 boxes sat against the wall, carefully labeled with dates that lined up with the months your sister started avoiding long conversations. The first box held receipts folded with care and clipped together with a pattern that felt methodical. Names you did not know appeared beside amounts that grew like a storm rolling over fields that used to feel safe. The last stack had your sister's initials beside a number that made your chest tighten. The second box held a ledger with neat lines and tidy columns, and in the margins a small symbol appeared again and again. The symbol was a circle with a line cut through it, simple and clean, like a brand that looks innocent until you learn what it stands for. You traced it with your finger and felt something in your memory twitch awake. Type Amen if you believe in God. 999. The third box held a small velvet pouch that did not match the rest of the practical order. Inside lay a ring you recognized from a family drawer that used to hold safe things. Your sister would never have given it away by choice, which means it was taken in a way that pretends consent. A folded note lay under the pouch, written in the same trembling courage as the first. She said she needed time and that time had become expensive, and she believed she could solve it before you noticed. She wrote that she was wrong and that the wrongness had teeth. You felt heat behind your eyes because love and fear walk the same road when family is in danger. The night outside pulsed with a rhythm that sounded like footsteps held just out of sight. You understood that fear does not always mean stop, sometimes it only means hold on tight while you go forward. You put the ledger and the flash drive into your bag as if tucking a child into a blanket. The storage door rattled shut like a warning pulled thin. You knew there were people who had planned for you to be late and you refused to be late anymore. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1111. A memory surfaced in you of an afternoon at the old house where childhood kept its echoes. Your sister had once hid broken glass in her pocket so you would not step on it, and your mother had folded the moment with gentle hands. You always thought you would be the one to protect her, and now that vow returned like a bell you cannot ignore. The city thinned as you approached the address printed on the bottom corner of the ledger. A sign above the door offered services that sounded helpful but felt like bait. Inside, the quiet buzz of fluorescent lights pressed against your temples with a hum that knew too much. A woman with calm eyes stood at a counter and spoke in a voice that tried to comfort strangers. She asked for no details because details would promise the wrong kind of safety. She slid a clipboard forward and the pen was heavier than it should have been. You wrote your name without signing your soul and you waited as a door clicked open somewhere beyond. A man in a tailored jacket stepped out and moved like someone who never had to run to catch anything. He smiled with professional warmth and escorted you into a room with a safe mounted into the wall. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1212. On the table lay copies of contracts that tried to look legitimate. In the margins you saw the symbol again, the circle with the cut line speaking its quiet language of ownership. Your sister's name appeared beside obligations that twisted common words into chains. You kept your breathing even because panic would pay interest you could not afford. The man talked about solutions and timelines and outcomes and all of it felt too rehearsed. His smile never reached his eyes, and his eyes never left your hands. He asked for the ledger you did not show and mentioned a number that matched the last receipt in the box. He knew details he should not know unless he had been standing closer than anyone realized. You understood then that your sister had been watched the way people watch a door they plan to use. The room's air thickened as an unseen clock moved its stubborn hands. You stood and thanked him without gratitude and walked out before the conversation turned into a net. Outside, the wind greeted you like a friend that prefers honesty over comfort. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1313. The flash drive waited in your palm like a secret with a heartbeat. You found a quiet space with a borrowed laptop and a table that had seen too many late nights. The files opened into folders named with dates that matched the ledger's quiet timeline. Videos loaded with thumbnails of rooms you recognized from places you never visited. Each clip held angles from cameras that were not supposed to exist. Your sister appeared in some of them, wearing bravery like a jacket that does not fit anymore. You noticed hands sliding papers across tables, men nodding with approval, and your sister holding a pen like a person holding a loaded thought. Every scene carried the same symbol on small objects placed like breadcrumbs that want you to think you are choosing your path. The sound was low, voices layered, hints of names smudged by noise. One clip froze you in your seat because it was recorded in a hallway from your building. The camera had been tucked high near the light, and the timestamp matched a night you remember not sleeping. You saw your sister leave a small envelope at your door and walk away with a pace that was almost running. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1414. There was a document named Hinges in the folder, and inside it a map formed from lines and addresses. The routes converged at a warehouse near the river where the city pretends to forget itself. The pattern was clean, as if drawn by a mind that turns pressure into geometry. You reached for calm and found it, thin but loyal. The night outside had grown newer somehow, like a chapter turning without your permission. You put what you needed into your bag and promised silently that your sister would not be alone on the page that followed. On your way out, a shadow unhooked itself from a doorway and became a person who walked beside you without touching you. He spoke softly and said that the circle symbol belongs to a group that prefers whispers to announcements. He said they approach people who are tired and then call it mercy. He did not give you his name because names become doors if you say them aloud. He offered a small card with an address and an hour stamped, nothing else. He told you to arrive without the ledger because the ledger already held too many eyes. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1515. The address was a cafe that kept its lights low and its coffee honest. A bell on the door chime sang a note that felt older than the room. Two people sat at the far table with the posture of those who have carried heavy news for long stretches. They slid a folder toward you and inside it sat photographs stitched together by thread and tape. In one, your sister stood near a car with a window rolled down just enough to let a promise escape. In another, she met a woman whose smile hurt to look at because it held patience sharpened into a tool. The pair explained that the woman is the quiet architect of the circle with the cut line. She arrives the way rain arrives, first gentle, then absolute. She understands desperation and talks to it like an old friend. They said your sister negotiated bravely until the floor tilted under her feet. They said the architect prefers to win by making the victory look like a gift. They said your sister began to realize the shape of it only when the door behind her clicked. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1616. You asked for steps without stating them, and they gave you a plan written in small, certain lines. Your part required speed and steadiness, like carrying a candle through wind. You would go to the river warehouse while they disrupted the quiet channels that fed the circle. The river held the city like a secret it did not want to drop. The warehouse looked asleep but breathed like a creature that dreams of locks and codes. Your key from the black box held no promise for this door, yet your hands knew patience and patience learned the shape of the latch. Inside, the air carried the scent of sawdust and cold metal. Footfalls echoed into corridors that let sound travel farther than comfort allowed. You moved like a whisper that knows its own worth. You found a small office built inside the larger space, a room within the room, an idea inside a bigger idea. The desk held papers aligned into perfect obedience. A single photo frame faced the wall as if refusing to share its face with strangers. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1717. The drawer clicked open under your hand and revealed a stack of envelopes numbered in black marker. Each envelope held a fragment of a larger fabric, names folded into dates, amounts stitched into signatures. Your sister's envelope was number 8 and the paper inside felt warm like it had been held recently. She had written a line for herself and then crossed it out, like someone arguing gently with her own courage. A second line remained, its words carefully chosen to hide a truth in plain sight. She had noted a place where the architect returns to breathe away from the work. The place was not far and the time was near, and your pulse learned a faster language. You put the envelope back into its exact nest because leaving it wrong would announce your presence to people who notice everything. You took only the detail that mattered and tucked it into your stride. On your way out, a light clicked on somewhere you could not see and your shadow stepped sideways in surprise. You became smaller than the sound of your steps and larger than the fear in your chest. The door accepted your exit and the night swallowed your outline without argument. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1818. The meeting place was a small rooftop where the city writes its own constellations. The architect stood by the ledge with a coat that made the wind think twice. She glanced at you and smiled the way people smile when they have already calculated 1,000 contingencies. She spoke softly and said your sister is valuable because she protects people she loves with her whole body. She said that kind of heart can be used like a lever if you find the right edge. She said you arrived exactly on time because she prefers witnesses who care. You felt anger rise like a tide and then you anchored it because rage without aim becomes a tool for the wrong hands. You told the air around you that your family will not be rearranged. You let silence say the rest because silence, when held correctly, can be louder than noise. The architect watched your steadiness the way a scientist watches a flame. She said there is a file that would end the game for her side and shatter the plan that holds your sister. She said the file is useless without the ledger and the ledger is already on your side of the river. Type Amen if you believe in God. 1919. She offered a bargain and bargains are shapes that look different from each angle. She would release the pressure around your sister if the ledger vanished into a quiet place that never returns echoes. She promised safety like a perfume that smells lovely until you breathe too deeply. You stood inside your own breath and weighed the edges. The city's hum seemed to pause as if waiting to learn whether the night would belong to mercy or memory. You saw your sister's handwriting in your mind and remembered the tremble that did not break. You told the architect that safety cannot be built on a lie that steals the future. You said you would not trade one cage for another, even if the second cage has softer bars. You held her gaze until she blinked and the wind returned to its proper sound. She stepped closer the way a wave steps closer without asking permission. She said there are stakes beyond your family and that the circle has roots in contracts that fund darker work. She said every ledger page is a match and the city is full of dry rooms. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2020. Your phone vibrated like a small animal caught between choices. A message flashed from the pair at the cafe, and it contained a single line that tasted like relief. They had secured witnesses who would stand when the ground tried to move. They needed the flash drive activated at a specific hour when the architect's network shifts like a flock. They asked you to deliver gravity to a room that believes it cannot be moved. They reminded you that truth is not loud, it is patient and exact. You breathed and the breath found space and the night stopped clutching at your throat. You told the architect that a tide was turning and that she could step away before it swept her. You offered her the kind of exit that looks small but saves lives when storms arrive. She looked out over the city and for a moment her shoulders lost half an inch of iron. She said she once tried to build honest pathways and watched them collapse under greed that wore friendly shoes. She said she learned to shape the collapse rather than be buried by it. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2121. You left the roof and the staircase whispered with each step like old wood remembering a song. The street opened and your stride carried a decision that would not reverse. The cafe lights glowed ahead like a harbor that has seen storms and still keeps its lamp steady. Inside, the pair had gathered maps and names and the last piece of timing the night required. The plan braided your courage with their experience and your sister's quiet strength. It asked you to trust that the right door would be open at the right moment. You moved to the building named in the first message, the place where the box had asked you to begin again. The window on the second floor was dark but not asleep. You felt your pulse knocking in your palms and you answered by steadying your grip. The door opened to a corridor where footsteps had recently finished a conversation. You reached the room at the end and turned the knob gently enough to hear the lock choose you. Inside, a small lamp painted the corners with soft gold and a safe waited with the patience of stone. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2222. The combination sat beneath the lamp in an envelope marked with a symbol that was not the circle but something older. You typed the numbers and the safe replied with a sound that loosened your lungs. Inside lay a folder stamped with the architect's true signature and a set of names that reach far beyond the river. The file detailed transfers routed through the firm where the tailored man keeps his smiles. It showed approvals that never passed through hands that understood consent. It laid out a map of who profits when desperation learns the wrong door. You copied the files and photographed each page with the careful speed of someone who understands that truth needs duplicates. The flash drive swallowed the images the way ground drinks rain. You closed the safe and left the room looking as if no one had taught it a new word. On your way down the stairs, you felt the air shift as if the building had just remembered something dangerous. You kept walking because pausing would donate momentum to the wrong story. The street inhaled you and gave you back to the night with purpose renewed. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2323. Archangel Michael says, The battle that tries to break your family will not win when you stand aligned with truth and courage. The protection moving around you is not loud, but it is precise, and it knows the exact edges of every trap that was set. The steps you are taking now are guided, and your sister will feel the weight lift as the night gives up its secrets. You met the pair at a building that prefers dawn, and together you aligned the evidence into a sequence no hand could deny. Witnesses arrived with the look of people who are done being afraid. The room filled with the quiet bravery that changes outcomes without shouting. Calls were made and doors opened that keep records for a living. The architect's network flickered as if someone cut power to a web of lights one by one. Your flash drive spoke in the language of timestamps and signatures and captured frames that cannot lie. Your sister walked in finally, eyes bright with exhaustion and relief colliding in the same breath. She held your hands, and the tremble left like a storm that has chosen another field. She apologized for the silence, and you told her that silence is finished now. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2424. The tailored man's smile faltered inside a hallway where cameras are allowed to look. His voice tried to take on the shape of paperwork and authority, and it broke against the cliff of evidence. He learned that night that kindness cannot be forged by people who are interested only in control. The architect stood apart and watched the tide turn with a scientist's resignation. She understood that the circle's symmetry had been broken by a single refusal to trade truth for an easier lie. She looked at you with a practiced distance, and you nodded, because victory without gloating is the kind that lasts. Your sister gave her statement with a steadiness born from surviving the worst part. Her words moved like a river that has finally fought free of the dam that tried to hold it. She told her story cleanly, and the room learned that love can be a sharp instrument when wielded with care. The circle with the cut line stained fewer pages with every passing hour. Rooms that used to feel untouchable learned the taste of transparency. Locks that once believed in permanence found themselves opening to clean air and honest light. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2525. Morning arrived like it had been waiting politely outside the door. The city stretched and remembered that it belongs to people who refuse to surrender their names. The river looked brighter than it had the night before, as if justice had changed the angle of the sun. Your sister slept for the first time in longer than she admits, and the air around her lost its tightness. You sat nearby and listened to the ordinary sounds of a room that does not hold secrets anymore. You knew the work would continue, but the worst edge had been blunted. Messages arrived from those who helped, carrying gratitude and next steps and the practical promises that keep victories from dissolving. Your hands finally stopped shaking, and your mind settled into the simple relief of a plan that worked. You thanked the quiet that protected you when noise tried to win. You stood at the window and understood that this was not luck but alignment. The path broke open because you refused to close your eyes. The love that moved you forward built a bridge strong enough to carry both of you home. Type Amen if you believe in God. 2626. Your sister woke with a softness in her face that had been missing, and she reached for your hand before she reached for words. The apology she tried to give turned into thanks halfway through, and that felt right. She said she will no longer carry weight that does not belong to her. Together you gathered what remains and placed each piece where it could no longer be used against you. The ledger became a record that serves the truth rather than feeding the dark. The flash drive became a key that opens doors toward healing rather than doors that only lead into deeper rooms of fear. The architect sent a single message that said the circle is closed for now. She did not ask for forgiveness and she did not offer excuses. She acknowledged that you forced a better ending than the one she predicted. You replied with silence because sometimes silence gives a person time to hear themselves. You turned toward your sister and felt the ground turn solid under both of you. The day waited with the gentle confidence of a future that has been reclaimed. Type Amen if you believe in God. 27:27. You walked outside together and the morning carried the scent of new leaves and clean sidewalks. Traffic murmured with an ease that did not exist the night before. People passed by with lives of their own and you felt connected rather than surrounded. Your sister asked for tea and you made it with the ceremonial patience it deserved. The steam rose like a soft flag announcing peace where conflict once camped. You both sipped and let the warmth teach your bodies that the danger had been cut away. A final folder remained on the table with pages that needed signatures so endings can become beginnings. You read each line slowly and signed with a hand that no longer shook. Your sister added her name with a steadiness that felt like sunrise. You filed the papers with the same care you would use to place a delicate heirloom on a safe shelf. The room felt bigger because fear was not hoarding space anymore. The day breathed with you and promised to keep breathing as you moved into it together. Type Amen if you believe in God. 28:28. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Backhand index pointing right.